Quilty is brought to you by Baby Lock Sewing and Long Arm Machines. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Fairfield, together we can make beautiful things. Free Spirit, a new generation of creative and playful fabrics perfect for fashions, home decor, quilting, crafting, and more. Havel's Sewing, cut it close with Havels. Moda, make something quilty with Moda fabrics. Thermoweb, manufacturer of heat and bond adhesives and new luxe interfacings, proudly made in the USA. Hi, welcome to Quilty. Hey, what's that? It's a safety glove on my hand, so we must be talking about cutting today. And we are. We're talking about rotary cutters, and we're going to do a few updates to kind of clean up your cutting, tell you a little bit about changing your blade. Because changing your blade, surprisingly, can get a little bit tricky if you're not paying attention to what you're doing. So let's go through that, and then I've got a couple tips for you today when you're cutting on your cutting mat with your rotary cutter. Okay, so let's talk about blades and rotary cutters. This is a 60 millimeter rotary cutting blade. This is the one I use the most. It fits my hand well. I like that. I like the big size of it. And I also cut a lot of scraps. So I'm cutting like from fat quarters, lots of strips, lots of things. So it's very comfortable to me. This is a 45 millimeter rotary cutter, and that is got some fabric dust on it. This is more ergonomic, right? May fit your hand a little better. My hand's a little big for this, so I don't use this one so much, okay? But sometimes it's handy. And then this little guy is great for cutting around curves, small pieces, templates like that. And I have to tell you a story, and I'm not proud of it, but I was cutting around a fan template not too long ago. It was evening. I was doing some sewing, and I did not have my safety glove on. And I cut myself, and it was not good. I went bzzzt with this little rotary cutter, but it made me think of doing this show because I want to tell you a reality about the safety glove. And my mom said this to me, so I know that it's not just me saying this, and you can trust the source of Mary Ann Font. So if anybody cuts themselves, you just send the emails to her. But she said, in reality, Mary, when we are using the 8x14 ruler, which is a great ruler to have, it's the one, like these two things, constant use in my sewing studio. She says, Mary, when you're cutting with this ruler and you're cutting yardage, you've got your hand here. There's so much ruler between you and the rotary cutter. She says, I don't always put this on. And I don't either when I'm at home. We make a very strong point about using your safety glove always, but the truth is if you feel comfortable with your hand this far away from your rotary cutter, you're likely not going to zip over your hand like that. But always, if you're using a smaller cutter and you're going around a small template, or if you are doing really precise, work like this, any sort of close touch with your hand, you got to wear the glove. I learned it the hard way. Take it from me. Don't tempt fate. It hurt a lot. I hurt my finger. So that's safety glove reality, okay, is that not everybody puts it on at home, but you must if you're doing any blade close to your hand, okay? So we get real on Quilty. We get real. Okay, so blades. Speaking of blades, when you are changing your blade, you would benefit yourself by putting a fat quarter, just pull a fat quarter from one of your bundles and put it down, because you are going to be unscrewing things on this rotary cutter and you don't want to lose the parts. You also want to keep the parts in order because so here we go. So there's this little washer here, or there's this little screw, and I'm going to lift it up exactly the way that I'm looking at it, and I'm going to put it on my fat quarter because it won't slip around and it's easy to see, okay? Then I'm going to pick up this little washer, and this is the part that sometimes, like I've fiddled with rotary cutters for a while because the washer is curved in a rotary cutter and it needs to curve up like a little saddle, okay? But if you get it flipped around, it's like, what's wrong with my rotary cutter? Why won't it cut? Okay, and then we remove this, and that's the blade. Okay, be very careful holding that. And then your screw. So as I look down at this fat quarter, I know that first, second, third, fourth. as I replace, okay? So I've got a replacement rotary cutter blade, and we've talked about this once before, I think, but it bears repeating that when you change your blade, and you should change your blade, if you're cutting a lot, you gotta change your blade more often. It's just like your needle. You want to change your needle. If you're sewing a lot, it gets dull. If you're cutting a lot, this gets dull. So if you make a quilt a year, you probably don't need to change your blade very often. Okay, so you have your blade and there's oil on it. Don't wipe it off. It's there for a reason, okay? So you take your blade. Yeah, it's pretty oily. Don't wipe it off. Okay, so blade, we know, goes here. Beautiful. Old blade in the box where you got the new one. It's a really smart disposal method. Okay, done. Now, we've got our cutter. We know what order this goes in. And this may seem basic, but I tell you, before I just actually did it very consciously, I would fiddle. I would fiddle a lot. Okay. Wash her down like a saddle. Great. And we're back in business. And I hold the front a little bit while I'm, just to really make it tight. And you'll know if you start cutting if something's wrong. You'll know because it won't work properly. Let's see if we got it right. So I am going to, you know what? Look, I'm gonna use a small rotary cutter. I'm gonna put on my glove. That's what I'm gonna do. I gotta use the big one I just did, sorry. Okay, well, I'm gonna use it anyway. I'm gonna put the small glove on anyway. Like butter. And I gotta tell you, when you haven't changed your blade in a while and then you change it, mama, it's amazing how smooth the cut is and you don't get the fuzz. And I mean, so if you can't remember the last time you changed your blade, maybe you should change it. Okay, the last thing is, before we go, if you don't like rotary cutters, guess what? You're in luck. People know, people hear you when you say, I don't feel safe with a rotary cutter, or I want another way to cut my fabric. This is a tool made by the lovely Havels. Havel Sewing. Cut it close with Havels. Sorry, can't resist. They made this cutter that is pretty neat, and it is a blade on a track, okay? So you are pretty safe from that blade, but I need to tell you that just because this is in this track, you still need a cutting mat. This doesn't have we should take a close-up of this. The blade comes down, you push it down and it cuts your fabric, okay? So you can't just cut it on your table or you will be very sad, okay? So you put your fabric in. Sorry. Do it like this. Put your fabric underneath where you want to cut, line up the size you need. Boom. That's another way to do it. And safety glove on that is debatable because it's very protected. But it's a good way to do it. You can turn it either way you want. The numbers read up or down, however, left-handed, right-handed. And it's just another way to cut your strips, cut your fabric if you're not so sure you like this anymore. And people with arthritis, people who just, don't feel comfortable with a rotary cutter, there's lots of other tools to help you. So that's a little bit of cutting school today, rotary cutting school. Thanks for watching Quilty. We're here to help you make great quilts, and we hope you do. Thanks. Quilty is brought to you by Baby Lock Sewing and Long Arm Machines. Baby Lock, for the love of sewing. Aurifil Italian thread, perfectly suited for all your quilting projects. Fairfield, together we can make beautiful things. Free Spirit, a new generation of creative and playful fabrics perfect for fashions, home decor, quilting, crafting, and more. Havel's Sewing, cut it close with Havels. Moda, make something quilty with Moda fabrics. Thermoweb, manufacturer of heat and bond adhesives and new luxe interfacings, proudly made in the USA.